Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Brendan Allen to defeat Chris Curtis. And I'm here to talk about Jose Chepe Mariscal versus Jack Jenkins, which should be a very cool fight. Jenkins is 30 years old, 12-2 as a pro, and he's given up 1 inch of reach to Jose Chepe Mariscal, who is also 30 and has a record of 14-6. Jenkins, both these guys are versatile fighters. They're both very versatile fighters, and they both seem like they're pretty damn tough too, which is going to lead to an exciting fight in my opinion. Jack Jenkins, 12-2. He's got 5 TKO victories, 3 submissions, 4 decisions for his victories. Very versatile guy. And his 2 losses both come via submission. They're both many years ago, obviously, before he got to the UFC, but they are both by submission. This guy, Sang-Won Kim, who's a good fighter, rear naked choked him in round 1. And this other guy, Jesse Medina, who's a journeyman, but a really good submission artist for a journeyman. He's got 13 submission wins in his 16 total victories. And he armbarred Jenkins in round 2. That was just, inexperience. I think he got caught from the guard. I know I saw the fight. It was against the cage and whatever. But either way, they rematched 4 years later, and Jenkins TKO'd him in round 2. So there's that. Jenkins is a really good striker, powerful everywhere, but especially with his leg kicks. Those are his best weapon easily, and I'd say it's the singular best weapon of this fight. Jack Jenkins has crushing leg kicks. They're responsible for a good portion of his victories, if not the majority. And, he's only got 1 official leg kick victory where he chopped the guy down, this guy Jason. But we've seen it in plenty of his other fights, even in the UFC. He's got 2 decision victories, but we've seen enough from his leg kicks where, it's definitely his best weapon. He has 5 KOs, as I said, or TKOs, 1 in round 1. That's it. Usually guys have the majority in round 1 as they come into the UFC. He's only got 1 of his TKOs in round 1, which shows that he's not the most explosive athlete out there. He's very powerful, but he's not that explosive and whatever. But he breaks it down. He's got 3 TKOs in round 2 and 1 in round 3. That was on the Contender Series against Freddie Linares. And Jenkins, that's who he is. He's a guy that breaks you down, and a good weapon to do that with is, of course, his leg kicks, but he's a mean puncher as well, mean boxer. And he's also gone 5 rounds once, in case you were interested. He fought this guy, Rod Costa, and it was a dominant victory for him the whole way through up until the last minute when he got taken down, but he didn't give a fuck, and he knew he wasn't going to be finished. And he had won 24 minutes of the fight. But yeah, we've seen him in the UFC, 2 decision victories, which is good, bodes well for him fighting longer. He beat Don Shainis, and that was, again, the leg kicks were the story of that victory, in my opinion. And against Jamal Emmers, look, I scored it 30-27 for Jamal Emmers, if you happen to remember my video from a year ago or whatever. But I did think Jamal Emmers definitely won that fight, but I still thought it was pretty close. I thought Jack Jenkins was... I don't know if I'd say he was in the realm of winning. I just thought that was a horrible decision, if I'm being honest. But it was close enough for a robbery. How's that for you? And Jack Jenkins still, he walked away with a nod and moves forward. And I think he gained a lot of valuable experience there. As did Chepe Mariscal, even though he's already got 20 fights. His last fight was against Trevor Peek, who is not by any means the best fighter he's fought or even the most polished, but on the feet he might be the most dangerous. Oh, that's probably Joe Anderson Brito. But Trevor Peek is a big, strong guy who's really fucking powerful and dangerous, raw talent, and Chepe Mariscal couldn't go right through him because he was so big and powerful, but he went to war with him and totally outworked him, outlasted him, and was just not dominant enough where he made it a fucking war. Because Trevor Peek had more than a share of moments in that fight and made it really exciting. But Chepe Mariscal was just too much for him. Better everywhere. Even on the feet, Chepe was throwing great strikes, some really careless strikes. But he was, he looked like a matador taming a bull. And really complete performance from Mariscal there. It was cool that he got to go and get the decision victory because he took that fight on short notice. So say what you will about that fight, but it showed something about his durability, which is in question, just looking at his record, and also his cardio, which is not in question really, but still, it definitely bodes well for his cardio, taking a fight like that on short notice. He has 14 wins, 9 via finish, 6 TKOs, 3 submissions, and just 5 decisions. 6 losses, 3 of them by knockout or TKO, 3 by decision, and all to pretty good fighters. He lost by TKO to Gregor Gillespie, who pounded him out from the back mount in round 1, as we've seen Gregor do in the UFC. I think he's still a UFC fighter, I don't know. Steve Garcia, another current UFC fighter, TKO'd him. That was a standing TKO. Yeah, it's a strike against his durability because he was hurt there, and but he was not finished legitimately. That was a bad stoppage. He was just biding his time, a little too much time, waiting for the perfect counter as he was being teed off on against the cage. And whatever. The fight was stopped. I suppose I can't really blame the ref, although it was clear that he was still in it, but just not clear to the ref, I guess. And Joe Anderson Brito, current UFC fighter. He's the only guy to really knock Chepe Mariscal out. He knocked him unconscious. Just a wild combination. Finished off with a big, mean left hook and put him unconscious. But that guy is exceptionally athletic and explosive, and of course very dangerous on his feet in the first place. But yeah, he just brings an athleticism that Jack Jenkins does not bring. Even if Jenkins is a very powerful guy, he's not the type to have a finish like that, I'd say. And his 3 decision losses are also to good fighters. Sean Soriano, who's been in the UFC on 2 different occasions, I believe, for 2 stints, I should say. This guy, Frank Buenafuente, who made it to the Contender Series, I think, and lost to Blake Bilder, unless I'm wrong. That might not have been in the Contender Series. And Bryce Mitchell, who is fighting in a few weeks against Dan Ige, one of the best featherweights in the world. And that fight with Bryce, he was largely dominated, but in the end, he made round 3 really close. And he showed in that loss to Bryce and in his win against Pat Sabatini. That's his best victory, I'd say. Split decision win over Pat Sabatini. But in both those fights, he showed an incredible submission defense. So, if Jack Jenkins should have his way, I don't think he's going to go through Chepe Mariscal with a submission. Chepe Mariscal seems really, really, really tough to submit. He was in a lot of dangerous spots with Bryce and Pat Sabatini, every submission, and survived them all. Chepe Mariscal, look, he can do everything. I think I trust him more I trust his energy more. I think there's a chance he does outwork Jack Jenkins, but I'm picking Jack Jenkins. I'm picking him to win a decision. I think Jack Jenkins is not like Trevor Peek at all. This is a totally different fight. He's much more in the realm of all the other guys with experience that I listed on Mariscal's record. But yeah, Trevor Peek was not a comfortable fighter. Jack Jenkins is. He's a guy that's comfortable, even though he's only got 14 fights. He already knows who he is as his fighter, his strengths and weaknesses, and he knows how to fight to make them a reality. I think on the feet this is close. I trust Chepe Mariscal to not get knocked out and to be in the stand-up fight, but I think Jack Jenkins wins the stand-up fight with power. Like I always say, power can win decisions, and Jack Jenkins got the more power and, of course, the leg kicks, which once those are made obvious to the judges, because I feel like sometimes leg kicks can get away from judges. The judges won't catch them. But I think once that becomes obvious, it's going to be the story of the fight, I think, on the feet. Jack Jenkins' leg kicks. And I think power will help him pull ahead on the feet. And on the ground, look, it depends on who can take whom down. Chepe Mariscal is no slouch there. And he's a good wrestler, and I think he is in the realm of taking down Jack Jenkins and having success there. But Jack, he's no slouch at all on the ground. We've seen him have a back and forth fight with Jamal Emmers, even though I thought he lost largely by conceding top position. But here, he's not fighting a guy that has the physical tools of Jamal Emmers. This is a much more manageable athlete standing in front of him, and without however many inches of reach Jamal Emmers had in the first place. And I think Jack Jenkins is going to be able to control himself and defend takedowns better here, and be more aware of the setups from Mariscal. I'm taking Jack Jenkins to win a decision, and I'm not really betting on it. It's plus 150 for Jack Jenkins. I actually think there's more value in Chepe Mariscal winning a decision at plus 300. So maybe I'll throw a sprinkle on that. But as of now, I'm staying away from this. But the pick is Jack Jenkins. I think he wins a decision. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit. Check out my other videos.